shit, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah, dude, it's not that like they make
Okay.
this stuff super easy, but at the same time, it doesn't take much to fuck it all up. So
Yeah, actually, it was pretty. Well, the first thing I hit, it gave me a bunch of numbers, and then it asked for passcode. I'm like, oh no, dude, this guy's hackers. No,
oh no, no. Yeah, no, we did one with my my whole family for Mother's Day, and it was like
okay.
a complete clusterfuck. Where like 4 people knew how to do it, and then everyone else, like, it was just out of control. But it's a
I'm
pretty
gonna
easy
have to
way of
use
doing them, though.
this.
So
I'm gonna have to do this for the show I'm doing. I'm actually gonna try and run it into an old CRT TV
uh
because I want the people I interview kind of like Space Coast style. Um, so I'm like jumping in head with all this shit, and then you get a hold of me. I'm like, well, there's an excuse to finally get that Zoom thing. I'm so fucking lazy.
yeah, no, dude, it's awesome. So so
See if
when are you gonna launch your podcast?
um the first episode with Christopher Brown is going to be recording in 2 weeks.
Oh.
And then I actually have a buddy helping me, Justin. He's the videographer for Guar, and he happened to move into my small town. Really fucking crazy, really, considering that's the boys' favorite band.
Yeah.
I kind of decided to do this. Chris agreed to doing it. Christopher Brown is the head writer for Beavis and Butt-Head, yeah, especially in the 90s, by the way. I should make that clear. And Justin's going to edit it. He's kind of helping me a lot, and probably be a month, realistically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we should mention you're Sean Beard, the world's largest Beavis and Butt-Head collector, amongst other things.
Damn right.
I didn't know. So you collect records too?
I used to collect vinyl records a lot. I had a really good collection of like obscure punk and noise and shit. People, I don't know, became valuable, and I ended up selling it all in 2012 so I could press my first record. And then after I sold my collection and started pressing my own, it really became hard to ever buy another record again because I didn't want to start over. So no, I don't have much of a record collection these days. Just a few essential, like top 5 albums type thing, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird one because like I basically inherited my collection, which is like my dad's, and then my grandfather's, which is like my dad's is like, you know, 60s rock, and then my grandfather's was just like super weird old obscure country stuff mixed in with like religious stuff. Like I have a Tammy Faye Baker 45 and like all kinds of super bizarre shit. So but yeah, no, it's a fun thing, but it's definitely hard to keep up on. Like I don't actively search out stuff unless I see something super cheap.
I did at a time, but this was quite a while ago now, but I kind of got into wanting to like document music. I felt like that's what I was kind of doing. I think it's the only collection I ever gave up on. And I think it's because I started collecting it because the dream was to someday release my own record. So then when the opportunity came up to release my own record, I fucking sold those all so I could afford it. And then I honestly don't miss the collection, quite honestly.
Yeah, we don't really listen. I mean, I have 2 small kids, so like anytime I put a record on, they just want to like pull on the stereo and turn it up and fuck with it as much as possible.
And stuff, yeah.
So now it's just like it's kind of like a cool just piece of art that we have in the house. But I didn't know that. So I mean, I discovered you through a friend of mine on Instagram. I think he just liked your stuff, and then I started seeing it pop up. And but yeah, like I mentioned to you earlier on the phone, I was watching the podcast that you did with those 2 guys, and I didn't know that you were a musician.
I guess you can call it that. Noisician.
Yeah, dude, that's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, Waves Crashing Piano Chords was the name of that, and early 2000s, I just had some kind of fucking mission in mind. I just thought like everything, I guess growing up in a small town in the country and stuff, and then going out to the city and actually seeing a music scene up close as opposed to what you romanticized it before, you had a car and stuff to go up and see it in person. I don't know. I guess I was just let down, and everyone just seemed like they were trying to make money and be a rock star. So I just kind of wanted to be this guy who showed up to shows I wasn't booked on and just ruin everybody's time. And
Yeah, dude, it was like it definitely had like a Gigi Allen vibe to it.
yeah. Of course, I love PGL. Yeah. Um,
minus like the pissing and shitting on people, but
yeah, I would masturbate sometimes, and there was some bodily fluid, the puke and whatnot. But no, I never wanted to really like just take Gigi's thing by any means. You can't really fucking top Gigi, so why try? I think the only way you can top them is dying is definitely in that equation.
Yeah, I watched something on him. Oh, like Showtime or something did a documentary about that dude. And
was it the one about his mom and brother?
Yeah, it was kind of sad, man. His mom was like didn't seem too stoked.
No, why would she?
Yeah, and then his brother his brother just seems like a huge creep. But
I don't like his brother. In fact, for everything that you could like bring up that makes Gigi a bad person, I don't think he probably was. I feel like he was just the guy that wanted to be the one that do it because someone had to do it. Kind of that whole like kind of make you question what the aesthetic of punk really would be at its bare bones, and you couldn't handle it type thing. It would just be a totally selfish person, a terrible person that does nothing but bad for the world around him. But there's a little bit of footage here and there of him where, kind of CD signings at record stores before shows, which is funny to even think that happened. And you can tell he is, in my opinion, he seems like a really good guy who set a bar for himself and then never wanted to fucking be called out. I mean, and even I felt that way the first time I like broke someone's nose, and then like the story gets out that you broke someone's nose and stuff. And, then people start coming to see it and whatnot. You definitely, you can't throw a fucking weak punch at people. You keep setting a bar and you keep having to top yourself and whatnot.
Yeah, and you kind of start have to start like living that gimmick too of like now people are expecting,
See, he did.
Yeah, he did for sure.
He did. I would go right back to me after the sets, and I think that almost confused people in a sense.
Yeah, it's kind of. I was just listening to you tell those guys. I was like, man, he seems like a super nice guy, but here he's like spitting and punching people in the face. And,
yeah, well, there's probably something wrong with me when I was younger. Who knows?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of fucked up in some weird way. So, because what you're like, you said you're like 30, 34, something like that.
I'm gonna be 33 in like 3 days or something.
Oh wow! Happy early birthday.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Past 30 doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm 38, and it's just kind of like whatever.
Hey, you don't look it.
Hey, man, I don't feel a day over 48. So, yeah, dude. So your collection's pretty intense, man. You mentioned that they're doing a documentary about you.
That, yeah, I have no update on that since then. I became good friends with the Alex, who's putting it together, but of course, I think it was turning into a stretched out thing because since the second time they came out, so much more has happened when I think about it. So much has happened since that podcast you were just watching even. And then of course with the state of the world, you can't go out and start filming anybody, but I think that's really a patience project. Like it's going to be a big payoff, probably the longer it takes type thing. So, but I'm looking forward to it. It's interesting. I'm kind of an introverted guy for the most part. So I actually canceled on them the first time. I didn't like the idea of it, and then I changed my mind. And when they came out, I really love it, Alex, and became good friends. And I think that makes me more stoked on it because I like the idea that he wants to do it and that his heart's in the right place. And
that's cool.
You remember there was this awesome show, the early 2000s, where they would go to collectors' homes, but they would just fucking exploit them, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle girl. And it's like she lives on a vast variety of pizza, and if you really talk to her, it's like, oh yeah, they totally made me just say that so the episode would be better.
Yeah,
like,
she lives in a sewer.
Turtle. Yeah. Honestly, I almost kind of wish I could get that treatment where it's just a 5-minute segment and they're just like, Sean lives on a diet of nachos and he just sits in front of a Maxi Mart. I think that'd be pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, they could kind of cater it towards the show. But I mean,
Yeah.
I would definitely be down to see it, but I think it would be kind of hard to do a whole documentary on just like one collection, right? Unless they kind of had like different people or they had different. Have you seen like the Toys That Made Us on Netflix?
I actually haven't, but I know enough about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see
Because they
something
just
like
do
that.
like a few minutes of each thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know how long they intended for that documentary to be, and then once they got out here, I think it started becoming um, more about just me in general
Hmm.
than just the Beavis thing. That almost became like the surface level. Uh, I don't know. It's strange. It's also been a while since they've been out and stuff too, so I forget.
Yeah, there's there's this dude I follow on Instagram, Joker 305. He's tattooed his entire face to look like the Joker, and it's ridiculous. But they were supposed to be doing a documentary on him, and I'll shoot you his
He
link.
deserves one.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, kind of the more like the more I see about the dude, I'm like, I don't think I'd want to watch this. It just kind of seems sad, but I thought about
I
having him
can
on the
only see
podcast,
that
but
going sad.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to be the most positive guy ever. But
yeah,
I have a feeling it's probably going to be a cry for help interview.
yeah. There's definitely I've seen a few of his like Instagram stories, and I'm like, oh, dude, somebody should I report this? Like, this is just
Oh
not
no.
cool. So,
Um,
so you've been a fan of Beavis and Butthead since you were 5?
yeah, when it came out in '93. Yeah,
Jeez, dude. Because I remember like we had MTV, and then there was all the controversy about the show, especially
yeah,
with the kid burning the trailer down and everything. And I remember my mom was like, "You guys can't watch this show," and then
yeah.
we still just watched it anyways, and then continued to watch it to the point where she was. I think her and my dad tried to cancel cable because we were watching it, and they were so scared of it. But then
Oh wow.
they never did. So, but
It's a like beautiful and not thing, that fire controversy, because everyone has a variation of that story.
mhm.
Like the year Beavis and Bud came out, and that controversy only took a few months to happen. Um, every kid was like warned. It
Mhm.
was like the war on drugs is over. Did you see this cartoon?
Yeah,
Um, I mean, even for me, my mom, probably got me like 2 or 3 shirts that year. That you go up to the mall once a year and get your school shopping
mhm.
or whatever. And I got 3 Beavis and Butt shirts.
That's
That's what I was
awesome.
gonna wear all year.
Yeah.
And they call her in, and um, they're telling my mom, she's a bad mother, and that they killed the cat, and they obviously hadn't seen the show or
Mhm.
anything. And my mom had seen the show, and she liked it.
Yeah.
Still does. And she's like, well, those are the shirts I bought him, so that's what he's wearing. And I had to turn those shirts inside out every day. Eventually they convinced my parents that if they don't make me go to therapy because I've watched this show, that they're bad parents. I mean, my story is probably like one of the most uh, exaggerated. It's not exaggerated, but just like surreal and just blown out of proportion scenarios.
Mhm.
Um, but it also, I think that is a part of why I'm so obsessed years later. The decade of the '90s. I mean, the big three: Simpsons, Beavis, and South Park. And then you can even bring up some music. I think a good example is Insane Clown Posse. As funny as it is, it was every one of those is a good message that was disguised as a bad thing. And each one of them like really fucking turned heads with adults.
Yeah.
And I think most kids, around our age that really liked it, because every one of those had the surface of like, I like it because it swears. But if you really got into any of those, there was always like a deeper message. And
Mhm.
Beavis and Butthead, probably the one that wasn't shoving it down your throat the most of any of them. Uh, but there is a lot of freaking substance and satire to those characters, and even just the world around them and the people they encounter. Um, I especially loved how they portrayed any teacher or school staff. They just the only one who is good is Van Driessen, and he's almost like too good of a soul, to the point where you even question if he believes it or if he's just latched onto this ideology of like the hippie code and everything. And
Yeah, he's the hippie teacher, right?
yeah,
Yeah, where
yeah.
he's like so nice to the boys and he keeps like encouraging them and they just keep making fun of him.
Well, Elvis has this like self-fulfilling prophecy. You could tell he's that teacher that hopes that every year he's going to have at least one or two students where he makes the impact.
Uh,
And they're the epitome of, they never learn a lesson. There's like almost no consequence. And if there is, they don't learn from that. So it's like the perfect characters to encounter for a teacher like that. I had a teacher like that, and I absolutely fucking loved him, and he probably did help me. But yeah, Beavis and Butter, you're not going to change them.
no.
I love his quote. That just means these two boys, what is it, have the most room for improvement.
That's a great line.
Sums them up so perfectly, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
What was it that really kind of drew you to them? Was it like what sunk how did it sink its hooks in you? Was it just kind of growing up and it was just the first thing that hit you, or?
No, because Gremlins was probably my first favorite thing.
Oh wow.
Let's see, my parents split up for a few months. My dad was living with with a childhood friend, and my dad's childhood friend was like, his name was Ronnie. He's definitive, like, only has a recliner and a TV and a bookcase, like really long, of all like big box VHS porn, and then like 3 boxes of Hustler magazines in the corner. And for like 5 years old, you're just like, man, Ronnie kicks ass, you know?
Yeah, Ronnie
He's got it all figured out. Yeah. So of course, one time, I don't know what they were gonna go doing, and Ronnie's like, "Oh, I'll put some cartoons on for him," and fucking put on Beavis and Butthead. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it scared me at first because those really early ones, they're drawn very, very weird.
They're pretty crude, almost like the Simpsons. Like the first few Simpsons are they're almost kind of like rough to look at.
Yeah, totally. I like that look of the Simpsons too. I usually like that about cartoons in general, when they have that period where the animations, and what's beautiful about Beavis and Bud, because it was rushed into production so fast, is that you literally get to see the progression episode per episode throughout like those first 80 episodes. And those are the ones that like aren't on DVD and shit, mind you. But if you really like get the full like fan preserved collection and watch it, every episode that the characters are developed just a tint more, the animation. I think that's the only cartoon that ever truly did that, because MTV like pretty much forced them to rush it in production, and Mike Judge barely even knew what the characters were yet.
Fuck.
And all there was Frog Baseball and stuff. And of course, all the episodes were realistically like 3 minutes, but then they would segue them with all those music video commentary. So through that, it's like, okay, let's write really quick episodes, and then, you know, the music video commentaries. So in one sense, he's like forcing this thing. He's writing stories about characters that he doesn't really know yet. But then through doing the music video commentary, he ends up developing the characters more like, well, how would they just converse with each other watching TV?
Yeah.
And I think the whole process of the show, getting to watch it, is a big reason I'm obsessed too. There really is no other show that you can watch it that in depth, progress.
Yeah. When we kind of started going back and forth and we kind of confirmed that we would do this, I just pulled a couple episodes up on YouTube, and yeah, I never forgot how great it is, but it's just something I haven't watched in so long. You know, it is like that thing where like you grow up watching it, and then you watch them and you're just like, fuck, man, this is a great show. And I remember they released a bunch of them on DVD, maybe like in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the music videos. And to me, that was like the best part.
The Mike Judge collection DVDs, the ones that were kind of box set-us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they did, but throughout the volume 1, 2, and 3, I think there's literally 30 of those music videos added. And of course, they're not in between the episodes. It's like on the bonus disc.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But I mean, there were over 200 episodes of the original run. So how many music videos did they watch? And there's only 30 that are on DVD. Yeah. There's a lot fucking missing.
Yeah.
I didn't care for the music video segments as a kid. Uh, it felt like, um, well, it technically is. It's um, it's another commercial.
Mm.
It's promoting a band,
Yes.
but that's in the early era of the show. They didn't really compliment the bands, or they did compliment the bands, and I didn't like that. You know, they'd be like, Red Hot Chili Peppers are cool. We all know they're not.
No,
Come
no,
on.
no.
Yeah, come on, it's stupid.
I know they did, the one I
But
watched,
then,
they were talking about Soundgarden, and they're like, Soundgarden rules. And I was like, I fucking hate Soundgarden.
right. And then by like season 4, they watch another Soundgarden video and just tear it apart. Because that's the thing, they're kind of rushing. It's like, okay, you got these characters, you don't know what they're like. Make them commentate on these music videos. He was probably, you know, and then they force him to do it after like a year, and he fucking hates doing it. And that's when you truly get Beavis and Butthead, where they're just like, this sucks. None of this is authentic. Like every rock band is trying to fucking make money. The only things that they really thought were authentic was gangster rap, and if any like 70s funk would come on, or shit like that. I always loved that, like Grand Funk Railroad or some band like that come on and they'd be like, ooh, yeah. They just fucking they didn't even question if it sucked. It ruled. They just
Yeah.
fucking knew it. And then, but as much as people like pinpoint them as metalheads, they almost aren't. I mean, there's not too many rock bands and metal bands that came on in the period where they are realized characters that they fucking like loved.
Mm.
Even Pantera, it's like, we like this band, but I bet this guy's a fucking wuss, you know? It's like, and that was when they were really shining on the commentary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was humble brag. I got to see Pantera twice, and it was I actually have a scar on my finger from a Pantera show,
Really?
and I was actually sitting down. So, long story.
Someone like step on you with their boots or something?
No, somebody broke a glass pipe, and I went to
Oh,
go
wow.
reach for it, and I sliced my finger open, and I had to go to the medical tent at the show, and it was Slayer and Pantera at they did a tour, and then I saw the first Slayer song. Basically, spent the entire time in the tent, and then came back and saw the last Slayer song, and then Pantera was on. But yeah, no, it was they were quite a band to see live. So
I kind of came late to Pantera, man. Like,
Mhm.
even though I saw their videos through The Boys as a kid and stuff. Of course, I was born in '87. I don't think Pantera came across as too fucking balls out by the time I was watching it. Um, but then, like, knowing my music history and stuff, I could definitely see when they would have been like, it's like, holy shit. But it didn't last too long because they changed the game and fucking people one upped them like mad quick, and
Mhm.
then people found out what death metal was really quick around that time, and it just like, I kind of credit Pantera for that spill out of when people were like, well, how much heavier can it fucking get? Because, you know, back then you couldn't just look up shit on the internet and discover music the way you did. Your friend showed you something, or, you know, I kind of missed that in a sense, especially that feeling of having a CD that you don't feel like people should know you have.
Mhm.
You know, just something that comes off as evil. I don't think any music is ever going to come out again where it's like, oh man, this shit's really scary and evil. Like, we've all kind of realized at this point that every artist is just a fucking artist. Like, you know,
Yeah, yeah, and there
like
is
I would say, even Gigi, I feel, was probably a good guy. You know?
yeah. So all right, so you go from doing music, then you kind of after from that podcast I was listening to earlier, the music kind of ends, and you start the Beavis and Butthead collection, right?
No, not necessarily, because I started that label, Hate Track Stereo, where I released 8-track cartridges around 2013, and that was right in the midst of my noise thing gaining popularity and people liking it instead of just getting pissed off about it. And the label started making me money, and I've been collecting Beavis and Butthead since I was a kid, but it was shit. Around 97 when it ended, I'm 10, and all the merchandise went away. So finding stuff throughout that period, when the show came back in 2011, you'd find some stuff in stores, but it was never like when I was little. You remember Spencer's in 1993, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking the Beavis and Butt-Head store, man. So, but I'd always, since we got the internet, it was just always on eBay, like making mental notes of every Beavis item that was ever made. It's been an obsession.
Yeah.
And then once I started making money, I I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy all that stuff I ever wanted. And so I would say really the collection really took off from 2013 right up to now. It's still growing ever so slowly. It's getting harder to find stuff that I don't have at this point, you know, of course. But with the series coming back, which was just announced last week,
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind they're gonna fucking kill me with this merchandise. I'm gonna go broke.
Yeah. So it's coming back, and it's coming back on Comedy Central.
Yes.
Do you know,
Which,
like, I mean, I don't know if you are privy to any information coming out of it, but is it like the original writers that are coming back? Obviously, Mike Judge is going to be a part of it, but
it better be. Let me put it that way. uh, I know Mike Judge is going to be a part of it. But the original team was Christopher Brown and Yvette, and they worked a little bit on the 2011 season. I like the 2011 season, but the best entries are what those two touched, because I truly, as much as it is Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead, the beauty of Beavis and Butthead, I think it was a team effort. There were a few people that came in. I give Chris a lot of credit, especially after talking to him now and whatnot. You really realize how much he was in the heads of those characters, and you know, being the head writer and stuff. I mean, knowing what situations would clash with those personalities, perfect for that, you know, perfect boom every time. And I really pulling that the original writers get on the new show. Because I mean, I don't know who would be writing otherwise, but if it's people from King of the Hill or something, I like King of the Hill, and I can see where the humor is slice of life on Beavis and Butt-Head and King of the Hill, but it's a very different style of writing to do dumb guy humor, but do it in a smart, clever way. And Beavis and Butt-Head fucking nailed it, honestly. Because any other show I can think of that has dumb guy humor but tries to be intelligent is beating you over the fucking head with its intelligence. I like Rick and Morty, but every time I finish an episode, there's a little bit of come on me from the creators. It's like you know, it's like, geez, get over yourselves. Like,
yeah,
we get it. You've thought before.
Yeah, I've never seen an episode of Rick and Morty. Everyone says it's great, but I've never watched it. But I always kind of looked at like King of the Hill was, I liked it, and I've kind of meant to like go back and just check it out because I think it's on Netflix. But it always kind of came across as like a really weird show, like almost like a regular TV show but animated, if that makes sense.
I do love that aspect of King of the Hill because for the most part, it doesn't need to be animated. They don't do cartoony things.
Yeah.
And kind of Beavis and Butt-Head too. I mean, there's kind of a beauty to that, because to make slapstick in pain funny again in a cartoon after Looney Tunes and all that, you really have to establish in your cartoon that this is a real world where pain has consequence and whatnot. Like Simpsons didn't do that well, in my opinion. You know, I don't think they were trying to either. But when Homer gets hurt, it is very like bonk slapsticky. But when the boys like fall out of the back of a moving vehicle, it hits you harder because it's like, oh fuck, they showed that exactly how it would be. You know, when Beavis cuts off his finger in woodshop, it just rolls off to the side. You know, it's like, oh, it's so true. And King of the Hill, it's the same thing. I like King of the Hill. I think it's a very beautiful show. It's gotten some tears out of me. But as you as well, I'm sure you saw Beavis and Butt-Head first. And so when King of the Hill got announced, it caught me off guard for a while and took me a while to really sit down and think about why this is happening and why it's worth my time. And I do like it a lot. What I think is strange about King of the Hill is that in the past like 2 years, through meme culture, all of a sudden everybody's a fan and gets it.
Yeah.
And you know as well as me, is no one gave a fuck for the past 20 years about King of the Hill. And now it is like super fucking hip and good for it.
Yeah.
And it does deserve it. But yeah, I really credit the fucking memes, honestly. It's kind of sad. Maybe that's pompous on my end to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, there's all these propane, especially like when summer was start, or if summer starts and whatever. But like, yeah, all the propane memes. It would just be like Hank Hill with the propane, like standing by a barbecue or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's. I think I am going to go back. Maybe that'll be my new thing during like this weird quarantine. California is pretty much shutting down again, so we have more time on our hands, so I can get caught up. So, so you're out in New York?
I'm near Buffalo. I'm not near it. I live out like in the country with cornfields and cows and all that shit, small town and whatnot. About 8 hours from New York City. Yeah, so just as you'd imagine, a town like Beavis and Butt-Head, that kind of town, there's nothing to do. When I was a kid, I used to go into this junkyard that was in the middle of a field that was abandoned with my friend and just break stuff and hang out all day. And, you know, so.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town, so it's definitely pretty relatable.
Yeah.
What do you, did you see the movie in the theater?
Yes.
You did? Okay, cool. Because I remember.
I was 9.
What's that?
I was 9 years old. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude. I just remember seeing it. My older brother took us to go see it at like the late showing at like 10 o'clock or whatever. And it was amazing. It's still a great movie. It still holds up.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's kind of a miracle in a way. It's like you took these two characters that even I could admit as a huge fan are very one-note joke, and you managed to get an hour and a half out of that that's perfect from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucking magical, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's great. I just remember the main scene I remember is when they eat the peyote or the mushrooms. And just seeing that on a big screen with White Zombie playing, it was like, I don't know what is going on, but it's amazing.
Did you understand that he ate peyote when you first saw it?
I don't think
I was 9. I totally didn't get it. I was just there for the ride.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I didn't know it was peyote. I was probably like 12.
Well, they set it up really well because he could just be hallucinating from like dying in the desert. So that was really a quite subtle drug reference in that. Yeah.
And I think Rob Zombie animated that whole sequence.
Yeah, like he did all like the production drawings and gave him that, and then of course like Korea did the rest, you know, or whatever. But Rob Zombie fucking credits Beavis and Butt-Head for his like entire music career, which is amazing.
I could definitely see that correlation between those guys.
I think there was an interview where he said as soon as our music video aired on Beavis and Butt-Head, it was just like a drastic pickup in record sales. And it probably makes sense, not just because kids would seek it out once they saw it, but imagine owning a record store in 1993. And like we were saying, you find out about music the old fashioned way. And then this cartoon comes out that's watching some pretty radical stuff that wasn't even getting played on MTV at that time. And fucking, if I owned a record store back then, I would have been seeking out those labels and getting those albums in and stuff.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that happened for a lot of bands like Rob Zombie. I know it happened with Green Day, and like Weezer too. Weezer was played a lot, or that whatever that Buddy Holly song is, that got played a lot. I remember reading an interview with that guy where he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, as soon as we were on there, it was bigger than radio.
I'm pretty sure Guar credits their career to it as well. I would have to imagine.
Yeah.
Because I don't think MTV was playing their videos until the boys were watching them.
No, that's a good point, because it really did kind of become like a showcase for the videos after a while too, of like break bands. Yeah,
I mean, what's funny is when you hear about the bands that didn't like that they got made fun of, because it's like, wow, you just got like free promotion and your band sucks and you're mad that it got made fun of. Because there were times they didn't like the music, and I still like the songs. I mean, if you're putting yourself out there, you pretty much just are opening yourself up to get ripped on. So why would any of these bands care that they got ripped on?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I will say that the hardest I've ever laughed, like during the whole Beavis and Butt-Head, or what was the original Cornholio? I don't know
Oh
what
yeah.
it was.
Oh
I think I was like homesick or something like that. And dude, I laughed so goddamn hard that I don't know if I threw up from laughing so hard, but it was intense, man. It was great. And it was just the dumbest, like it's just the dumbest skit.
yes, but I don't know, man. Being kids, I almost feel like the Cornholio episodes almost are a little bit more. Were the ones that were made for the kids watching
Mhm.
because, like, if you stayed up till 2 in the morning at that age, you kind of just turned into that.
Yeah.
You're just laughing at nothing. I remember the first time I tried marijuana, I was pretty much like, oh, so you can just induce 2 in the morning being a kid, you know? I just feel silly and everything's funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's that character is great. The one that for me was Buttnicks, the one where he's in the coffee shop. That I saw that actually before the first Cornholio episode,
Uh-huh.
so that was my first impression of it, and I was fucking dying as well. That was so perfect, and kind of a commentary on art and whatnot, and
Mhm.
art critics and everything. Because of course he goes up there, and all these poetry kids think he's this brilliant guy
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
all this energy.
Yeah.
This is groundbreaking stuff, man.
All right.
That's so good.
I remember that
So
one
good.
now.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so do you think with comedy, because South Park's on Comedy Central, and South
yeah.
Park can pretty much do whatever the fuck they want
Hell's yeah.
and somehow get away with it? Like they're just like, well, they're cartoons. And they're like, oh, okay. And everyone just accepts it. But like, do you think Beavis and Butthead will have that same kind of freedom?
Yeah, but I also don't think they need it because if Family Guy can pack fucking 8 rape jokes into every episode nowadays, why are people going to get pissed over fart knocker and bunghole? I
Yeah,
mean,
they kind of
as
have like
much as
their own.
the show stirred up a controversy in the '90s, it was I mean, they had to remove all references to fire and everything. It by today's standards, it's super not vulgar. It's cute, it's charming. Um, they're not bad kids if you really think about it. They're just misled and dumb and ignorant. I mean, they'll accidentally burn down their job changing the oil by using motor oil, but they didn't get it, you
Yeah,
know. They also don't care once they see their job burning down. But
yeah. There's room for
um,
improvement.
but I also I someone was talking about that with me the other day, just someone in the Beavis group, and because the press release for the new show does say something like it's going to be modernized for Gen Z or something like that. I I don't believe that too much because I think Mike knows these characters well enough. He's not going to give them cell phones, like everyone's just making all these wild predictions what that means. I think what it means is it's on Comedy Central now. They're not going to be watching music videos anymore. So probably there's going to be commentary in another way.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the story segments, I mean, maybe the boys will interact with the modern world and that'll be the plot device, but we're not going to have them like, I mean, I see so many people being like, oh, it's going to be politically correct now and stuff. It's like, how
Yeah.
are you even going to write those characters to be politically correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the main character's name is Butthead. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. The outrage culture over the outrage culture is
mhm.
becoming more annoying at this point. It's like so many comments this past week since that, oh, they won't last nowadays. Everyone, it's PC and all that. It's like fucking bullshit, dude. Like I said, Family Guy, American Dad. People aren't nitpicking cartoons anymore.
Yeah.
That was a 90s fucking thing. Beavis and Butter are going to be just fine. I just hope that they don't try to get away with too much more because I don't think that's what it's about, man. I don't want to hear Beavis say fuck. It's
Mhm.
not funny.
Yeah.
It,
It's like they kind of operated in their own, like, not, I don't want to say set of rules, but they had their own world to where, yeah, they could be funny and stupid, but they weren't vulgar either, you know?
I mean, people forget because they're like, oh, it's so dated. It's the 90s. Beavis and Butthead were dated in the 90s. Kids didn't talk like that. Before Beavis and Butthead, you didn't be like, yo, did you score with her? Since
Yeah.
the fucking like 30s. a lot of their old lingo is very old, like bunghole and all that stuff. Like at my old job, my boss was in his 90s, and he used terminology like that because it was more common back in his day.
Yeah.
The boys are timeless because they were written dated.
Mm-hmm. And Mike Jed always kind of seems like an old soul, anyways.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Every
Yeah.
like every interview I've ever seen with him, he just kind of seems like he's already 85 years old. So
Like, I guess to put it this way, like let's think of early 2000s humor like Superbad, where we were really getting super vulgar. What's funnier, a kid being like, dude, I want to fuck that bitch, or Butthead being like, boy, I'd sure like to you know, and he just can't get it out. That's funny. There's a sense of innocence there.
Yeah, man. I watched Superbad not that long ago. It's still I love it, but yeah, it definitely is a little bit unnecessarily over the edge in certain parts.
It didn't feel like it when it came out because I think I was in that age group, and we were pretty fucking vulgar kids in that time frame, I swear. The way the movie opens up with them discussing getting porn and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I feel like all my friends do is just talk about fucking that we masturbate or something. but I do love Superbad. I do love that movie. But when I put on like that era of comedy now, it takes about 10 minutes for me to get desensitized to like, man, they're swearing almost too much. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. I was like, wow, maybe I just didn't. I mean, I swear a lot as it is, but sometimes when you hear it, it's different. You're just like, oh man, like, all right, we get it.
Yeah, casually, I guess in that they were going a little overboard, but such would that age group at that time.
Yeah.
But going back to, I mean, the political correct censorship shit of the 90s. I mean, as much as lately, because now it's been 20 years since 2000 hit. I didn't like the early 2000s, and now like a few things have popped up, and I could see why, but I also think that TV was probably at its most vulgar in the early 2000s because some of reality TV was like the most evil fucking premises to put people in just to let us watch them, you know?
Yeah, like Fear Factor.
Yeah, dude. Or that Kid Nation where they took a bunch of like 8-year-olds and put them on a fucking deserted town and were like, kill chickens and fend for yourself. Like, fucking, how did that happen? That would not happen now. No. And it wouldn't have happened in 95 either.
That's like a real world Lord of the Flies. You know, like,
I'll be honest, you should watch it. It's pretty fucking good. As terrible as it is morally, it's a pretty fucking cool social experiment.
Yeah, there was one called The Joe Schmo Show. Do you remember this one?
That one doesn't ring a bell. What was that about?
It was all actors on a reality show, but one guy was the actual like participant. So he didn't know that it was all fake and it was all rigged. And
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, it was kind of
VH1 one.
What's that?
Was that a VH1 celebrity? Was that one of those?
No, I want to say it was like Spike or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he was the only one that didn't know it was a show. And then looking back on it, you're like, man, that would really fuck up that dude's head. And I think at one point he kind of realizes that they're all actors and that the joke's on him. And then
I slightly remember this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they would just make shows where people's feelings got hurt or people were terrible to each other. And it's being like a written story with some purpose. It's just like, no, we just recorded it because people like schlock. Early 2000s is the fucking epitome of schlock, man.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Interesting.
What's that?
But interesting how bad it is because now we're here and it's like I was watching early 2000s Mad TV and the black people are black stereotypes, the Asian guy is a Chinese stereotype, and it's like it's not even clever about it.
Yeah, no, you're just kind of being mean and like doing those jokes just to see if you can get away with them. Like,
yeah, I guess so. And everything else we're talking about can get mean-spirited and get vulgar, but be so make such a good point afterward that it's almost always justified.
Yeah.
And then there's that other sect of comedy where it's like, well, we're just doing it to be assholes, and it just doesn't land.
Yeah, and like that's where like Beavis and Butt-Head were almost charming in that sense, where they didn't have to do that kind of stuff. What I thought was always pretty cool about Beavis and Butt-Head is when they'd be like on David Letterman, and they would
Oh,
just kind of have them.
yeah, they Roger Rabbited them. I
Yeah,
love that. All of their interviews, that was so cool, man. I agree.
yeah,
I'm kind of shocked they did it too because they were already afraid that kids were looking at them as real things to imitate, and then they actually walk out onto Letterman stage and stuff. But yeah, that was always, and I loved because in that 4 year period where they're around, there's like eras within it. And after the movie came out and they started doing interviews and stuff, there was this almost like self-awareness that they did a movie, but
uh,
you can tell that they like kind of forget a lot too, you know. And like, is the Letterman one where Beavis he's like, oh, I'm going to take some time off and hang out with my son.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like saying that isn't going to help you score. Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh.
There was one like
That's
they were
so
doing like
good.
press junkets where there's like, you know, like when you see like the fucking actors of this show or the movie or whatever sitting in a chair on the news. I remember them doing those, being interviewed by somebody. And
Yeah,
I
I
just
loved it.
yeah, I just remember like whatever 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade or whatever, just being like, that is fucking genius. Like they're treating these guys like they're real.
You remember the Thanksgiving special in '97 where they were at MTV Studios with Kurt Loder?
That sounds familiar. I'm sure I've
It,
seen it.
of course, it only aired once. It was during the Macy's Day Parade, and then they actually had a float. I
Oh
don't know
wow.
if many people know this, but the boys had a float in '97 of them on the couch, and they commentate on their float. And of course, Butthead's like, my gums don't look like that. And that's on YouTube. One of those things. Check that out, buddy. It's
Yeah.
really funny. Their
Dude,
monologue about what Thanksgiving's about always gets me.
did you know that Kurt Loder is like 75 years old?
Man, he's that young.
Yeah, he looks great. No, it was something that popped up the other day. I was like, dude, that guy is 70. That guy was fucking everywhere in the early 90s, but
he does look good. You're right, but he's just been there for fucking ever. He's one of the original VJs for sure.
uh,
I haven't watched MTV in so long. I wouldn't know if he's on it anymore.
I don't think he is. I think he does like music journalism now. Like
Okay,
I think he like works for. I don't know. I have no idea what he's doing, but I'm assuming he's probably like writing stuff.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of early MTV like one-time airings on YouTube where they would do documentaries like about music sections and racism and stuff like that. And Kurt Loder was almost always the guy doing it.
Yeah,
But I remember him from MTV News.
yeah,
You hear it first. Beep, beep,
yeah.
beep, beep,
With the
beep.
what is it, the Megadeth bass line that it opened with or whatever? But yeah, anyway.
Was it? I never knew that, man. What
I
is
think it's a Megadeth bass line.
You hear it first. Dun, 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 dun. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so is there going back to Mike Judd, like we talked about, yeah, I've become pretty obsessed with Tales from the Tour Bus, and I don't know what I need to do to get a season 3, but I think those first 2 seasons are unbelievable on that show. I was actually watching a couple over the weekend, and
And I feel like it's going under people's radar too. Um,
yeah,
because
nobody's heard of it.
even
I
if
heard about it from a buddy of mine who does stand up in LA, and he actually went to the premiere with Mike Judd.
oh, that's
And,
awesome.
yeah, and they went out and partied afterwards. But he immediately, like, he was texting me during it. He was like, "Dude, you will love this show." And then,
It is a good show. I didn't get too into Silicon Valley. I watched season 1 and I liked it, but I don't know. TV shows just like are long now, and it's like, oh, I don't know, dedicate a lot of time to this.
yeah, I didn't know
But
that
I've
he was part
seen
of that.
both seasons of Tales from the Tour Bus. What was the first one that was rap and the second that was country?
The first one's country, the second one's funk.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Thank you.
So the
Um,
first season's all cocaine and pills, and then the second season is all cocaine and PCP.
and George Jones was just all booze. He got a 2-parter, didn't he?
Yeah, him and Waylon got 2-parters. I'm a huge Waylon fan, and then
Nice.
it was cool to hear like the Johnny Paycheck story, the Jerry Lee Lewis story, and then
Yeah.
Billy Joe Schaefer, I think, is the other guy. And then there's some other guy that I haven't watched his that much, but yeah, the
But
funk.
that's what I like is that he's romanticizing rebels,
Mhm.
and he's kind of telling you the bad parts of these guys, but I don't know. Some bad people make some good art sometimes, man.
Oh, yeah, man. Like
Yeah. I
it's
saw George when I was 10, and he showed up at 4 a.m. because he was down at the fucking bar down the street, dude. They were having cover bands come in and fill time, and I'm 10 years old, dude. 4 in the fucking morning, he comes on, plays his set, hammered as shit. And then he did a fireworks show, and the fireworks show was during the sunrise.
wait. So you saw him live?
George Jones sure did.
Oh fuck, man. That'd been
Lifelong fan of George Jones.
yeah.
I could have seen him live twice. In 2012, I, I don't regret it, but I do. I was like, I'm either going to go see George tonight or there's this fucking metalcore show I really want to mess up.
Yeah.
And I went and messed up those kids' show. And then he died like real soon after
Oh
that.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a buddy that he saw Johnny Cash right before, I guess he fell on stage like in the mid 90s or something like that. He saw him either right before or right after he fell. And he goes,
That guy's old.
it was kind of rough. It wasn't as solid as you would have hoped it would have been from Johnny Cash, but
Well, that is going back to that show. It is kind of the beauty of the train wreck a little bit. You see this artist, you love their music, and you can, if they show up, you can kind of tell if they're in a good state or a bad state tonight. But it makes them that much more genuine of a figure,
yeah.
and I think that is what that show's about. Is kind of putting a spotlight on these real people that made music, because boy, we're quite away from that nowadays.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of hard to find those cool rock and roll rebels anymore. So other than like the Beavis and Butt-Head, do you collect any? Because I know you're a big South Park fan too, right?
Yeah. Early South Park. I still think South Park's good, but my obsession is those first 3 years when it came out. Because you remember that hit fucking hard, and it was kind of a different show those first 3 seasons leading up to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I love about early South Park is that there's a surface joke we all forget, is that it's pretty much like, well, what if Peanuts swore?
Yeah.
And and the early show I feel captured that well. I liked when the animation was a lot rougher, when they literally moved to that was funny in itself. Yeah, I collect early South Park, mainly just the 97 and 98 stuff, and then the 99 movie. I collect Critters. You remember Critters?
I've never seen it, but I know what it is.
For its name. No. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
The furry Gremlins.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of Gremlins, and I'm a big VHS guy, always have been. So I got like some video rental store memorabilia.
Oh, cool.
Chucky. I love Chucky, so I got some Chucky stuff. Three Friends and Jerry, which was a Swedish show that got dubbed over in America that got pulled off the air real quick. Actually, the creator of that said he's going to come on my show, so that's going to be a cool segment.
Oh, sweet.
That was kind of a show right after South Park came out. See, in Sweden, their vulgarity level is way more tolerable than us. So it came over here, they would take out the swear words and stuff like that, but it was kind of a in-between kids show. Whereas you could argue that with South Park, like this definitely was in between a kid show and an adult show. Yeah. And it got pulled real quick here, but I loved it. And all of a sudden it was gone. And I've obsessed over the years. I got all the episodes in Swedish. Took me a long time to find the episodes in English, but I still watched them anyways. And finally started collecting that. There's a dude in Sweden, Robert, who found me on Instagram, and he just couldn't believe that anyone else fucking remembered this show type thing. And he's helped me get the VHS tapes that were released in Sweden and stuff like that. And of course, I can't even watch those, but yeah.
What's it called?
Three Friends and Jerry.
Three Friends and Jerry.
Of course, this is in Swedish, but there's a comic there.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and this was the last thing he got me. Now, even in the cartoon, they didn't show nudity or anything. And then he sends me this, one of the last pieces I needed to complete the collection for the show. And there's some titties.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can't go
So
wrong with those. Hey, another thing that I thought was really pretty awesome that you did was you you became friends with the kid that started the fire, that started all the controversy.
yeah. That was a weird one. I found him, messaged him, and he waited a year to the exact day to reply to me. I still don't know what that's about. I never even asked him, why did you wait a year to the day? And he told me off. He's like, contact my mom, Sheila. And I'm like, oh, I'm not the news, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just a passionate nerd who's the same age as you. And when this happened, you know, it affected my life, and I've just always wondered and stuff. And we just really clicked and started talking and stuff. And he gave me the whole side of the story. You know, he never saw Beavis and Butt-Head as a kid, and he still hasn't, because he's probably the one person that doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just a freak accident, and that happened, and then he got somehow.
He admits he was playing with fire, but come on, dude. At 5 years old, you tell me you weren't playing with fire if you could. That's such a boy thing, you know? His mom, to this day, still is like a fucking crack meth addict. So of course she's leaving lighters all. They lived in a trailer park in Moraine, Ohio in 1993. There was already a little bit of controversy stirring over the boys hitting the news and stuff. He was playing with fire. He burnt the trailer down. His 2-year-old sister unfortunately passed away in it. His mom called the news before she called the fire department that day, which totally explains why in all the footage, those firefighters are just starting. You know, while her trailer was burning and one of her children were dying, she fucking went on, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon and try and sue MTV. And so she did. And then, of course, they had to cut all the fire scenes out. They weren't allowed to say that. They kind of had to change the characters. In a way, I give her credit for taking a show that was starting out rough and trying to be mean-spirited, and it kind of had to readjust and become more clever about it way of writing. But also, fuck her. She's a terrible fucking person. I hope she rots.
Yeah.
He emancipated himself at 15. She fucking blamed him for years, you know, behind closed doors and stuff. And just a terrible person. And Austin is a fucking cool guy. I love that guy. And it was really, for me, it's like, oh, wow, I finally got this story, you know. And then the next day he gets back to me, and he's like, you know, I just want to say that talking to you yesterday finally made me accept that it wasn't my fault. I'm like, of course it wasn't your fault, dude. You're 5. Like, no one means to burn down their house when they're 5, except maybe Macaulay Culkin and Good Son.
That's true.
Scary movie, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I didn't release that story right away. And then eventually he reached out to me, and he wanted the story to get out there because it's documented the wrong way. It's literally documented in some sites and whatnot, saying that the show caused a death. You know, it's bullshit. I mean, you couldn't even get heavy in 1993. If you were living in a trailer, could you even afford cable anyways?
Yeah, no. Probably not.
No, it was pretty 1993 to have cable. I mean, you were maybe a little above middle class, I would assume. I mean, you know, I remember I went to one person's house who had a dish, and the dish was about the size of their house back then. You remember that shit?
Yeah, we had it, but I think we only had like select channels, or we had like the most basic setup that you could have for MTV. And we had MTV because I had an older brother and an older sister that lived with us at the time. So like that was their channel we got to watch. And then they moved out, so it just stuck around. But yeah, are you gonna have him on your podcast?
No. Well, I'll discuss it with Chris. It'd be nice to tell someone in person on the show, you know, that news stuff that's gonna be a part of it, not to. But no, Austin, he wanted the creators to know the truth but he's a normal dude, four-wheeling with a wife and shit like that. He doesn't fucking care.
Yeah.
He asked me, because he always wondered, he had me describe a few Beavis and Butthead episodes to him because he doesn't want to watch it, and I can understand why.
Yeah.
And he was laughing his ass off and stuff. I was just telling him, like, because he's just like, so it was just a show where they set fires and stuff. Like, okay, fucking no. That's how it was like made out by the media. But
Yeah.
I mean, they really didn't play with fire that much or like flick their lighter. It was such a small part of the show.
Mm.
But it did kind of turn into a catchphrase real quick. And before the merchandise could even come out with like, let's burn something on it, that happened. And I have a hat that says let's burn something. It was made and not sent to stores,
Oh.
So it's like, it was just about to catch on, and then they fucking got rid of it. And then the show changed, and then we got Cornholio and all the stuff that we really remember it for,
Yeah. It I want to. Didn't they kind of hint at the fire stuff off and on throughout?
Yeah, Beavis be frying up some food, fryer,
Are you trying to light a cigarette? You can never.
Oh, the very early ones. Yeah. Can you see that? Art?
Oh yeah. You've got multiple Beavis and Butthead tattoos.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm dumb.
No, they're awesome, man.
I'll show you my favorite. Beavis's drawing of a naked chick.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah,
that's
shot
so
by little helicopters.
Yeah. How are you on time? I don't know what you're.
It don't matter nothing.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I'm sure you're probably sick of talking about your collection, but is there like one thing that you're like just constantly searching for, like the holy grail of Beavis and Butthead stuff?
Yes, and I may have found it.
Oh.
It's an actual celebrity death match used figure.
Oh wow.
I don't want to fucking jinx it. I haven't even told anyone. You're the first person, because I'm just like, I got the picture sent to me. Actually, I showed Chris, but the opportunity came up, and because the guy's like, literally, I got a how much you got to spend. I think people think I made them. I'm not rich. I work at Dollar General now and make minimum wage. Even when I worked at the pharmacy, I only made minimum wage. Like, I just do my life the way I do it and stuff. But he's like, how much do you have to spend? And I literally said, you tell me the price and I'm going to sell shit so I can afford it. It's how much I can afford. Like, I'm not just going to be able to slap out some money. And thankfully, this dude is being really cool, and he is acknowledging that there's someone out there who will pay more, but I'm the one who should have it, because in prop collecting and stuff, there are just a lot of people who get stuff to have it for a bit and then use it as trade currency and stuff. And the right type of collectors, and there's becoming more of them, are the people that are like, I know where this is supposed to go, and they care. And I've met a lot of people like that, a lot more than the guy who tries to like rip me off and shit,
And that's pretty. I can applaud that, because it's like, oh, here's somebody that's going to offer me $10,000, but here's a dude that's legit passionate and is like literally turned his house into a Beavis and Butthead museum.
I mean, it's not the type of clay we could buy, but they are made out of clay. It's not something that needs to be passed around to collector to collector. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're very fragile. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, dude, that show is extremely violent.
Oh, dude, it so was. And I just love like stop motion and claymation and all that period. And of course, Davey and Goliath and Gumby and all that are kind of the start of it.
Yeah.
And then for Celebrity Deathmatch, just go full on gore. And then a few years later, we get Moral Oral, and it's like, oh, wow. There's a good example of the early 2000s going super fucking far.
Yeah.
That Moral Oral show was crazy. I liked it.
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old, and she was like, I want to watch something, and I found that Pee-wee's Playhouse is on Netflix.
Oh,
and we turned it on, and like 5 minutes into it, she goes, Is there something else we can watch?
That's kind of sad to hear.
Yeah, but then it's also kind of dude, the opening of that is all stop motion claymation. That
There are a lot of
yeah,
different styles just throughout that show in general.
yeah.
I mean, you probably were sitting there appreciating it again, right? She's like,
Yeah, I love Pee Wee Herman. I think he's hilarious.
you
My
know,
parents hated him.
Rob Zombie did the set there apparently and all that. Did you know that? It was one of his first gigs.
Yeah, I think I heard him talking about that on the Joe Rogan podcast. I think
Yeah,
he was
I don't know.
also he had
Yeah,
some affiliation with it. But dude, I loved that show growing up. But then
yeah.
watching it back recently, I was like, yeah, I could kind of see where this would be really weird for a kid to see for the first time. Like Pee Wee's kind of a dick. Uh, and then another thing
He's
she
selfish.
asked,
Yeah.
she was like, is he a boy or a girl? And I was like, he's a boy. And she was it was too much for her. It was too
Don't
much.
dig into it, kid. You're gonna make the show problematic.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I have
What
some.
I thought was weird was when he did a new movie a few years back,
Mhm,
and now he is very visibly older,
mhm.
and now it comes across as creepy.
Yeah.
It was good, but it's hard to play. He looked the part for what he was going for, so perfect in the
Mhm.
prime.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I mean, Big Adventures, it's classic, and then Big
Top
Top
five
Pee Wee.
comedy for
Yeah,
me, probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then Big Top Pee Wee. I remember seeing it in the theater as a kid and being like, "This kind of sucks. I don't like it. It was weird."
I rented that from the library as a kid, and doesn't he like score in it?
Yeah, there is a love interest. There's
Yeah,
I don't. I think
I
I've only
didn't.
seen it. I think I only saw it in the movie theater, and that was it.
I definitely only watched it once. I'd rather watch the show or the good movie there, or
Mhm.
some of the live specials. Some of those, there's a few tapes of those. Those are fantastic. I think
Yeah,
that's actually the way to truly see them is in front of an audience. It's very cool.
yeah. He did one for HBO. I think it was like Pee Wee on Broadway a few
Is
years
that the
back.
one where he's like flying at the end and the little lakes are behind him and
I think
it's like
so.
I'm the luckiest boy in the world. I don't know why that makes me cry every time. I
Yeah.
love that there's like a sense of cynical and selfishness to it, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
like too pure to acknowledge it type thing and
Yeah.
kind of relatable to the boys too in a sense. So
Yeah, but yeah, going back and watching, I was like, yeah, he's a really bizarre character. Like he's kind of a dick, but then you don't like he's also really kind of like confusing in a lot of ways. But uh yeah, man. So,
I don't think we knew why we liked it.
no, my parents were like, my dad hated Pee Wee Herman.
Well, it was such a good prank. I mean, it's like 8 in the morning, and here's the word of the day: scream real loud. And you're fucking, you do it. I mean, what a genius, man!
Yeah,
Little Andy Kaufman going on there.
yeah, yeah. Word of the day is still kind of a running joke I have with a friend.
Yeah,
He'll just yell, he'll start screaming. I'm like, what? And he's like, word of the day. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like
awesome.
so, but yeah, man. So I just, I know you mentioned before that you're getting slammed right now with the reboot coming back on, and then you're starting your own podcast. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and
Yeah, no, it's totally cool. It's nice talking to you. I'll show you off. I pulled aside a few items once you
oh
said
yeah,
this is
yeah,
going to be a video podcast. So let's see. Well, let's
yeah.
just start big.
All right. Oh
Um,
wow.
This was released in '95, a porno parody. I don't know if you could tell in the video, but it's one of those nice big box
Yeah.
pornos.
Why were
Um,
they so big like that?
what do you mean by that?
Well,
The booth?
like the box, the boobs, the boxes.
Oh, the box?
I always remember that. Like,
They would do this with horror movies too in the early '80s, just to make them stand out on the shelf all nice. As for porn, dude, if you really do your research, the porn was kind of what made home video take off more than movies themselves. It's
yeah,
just people weren't really admitting it, you
yeah.
know.
So that's
So
that's Beaver and Buttface, the porno.
Beaver and Buttface. I don't know. I can't really see how good I'm zooming in there, but
No, that looks fine.
it's terrible. I watched it once. Um, Hearing Beavis saying, "Yeah, sucking dicks is cool," while getting his dick sucked was just like, no, stop it,
Yeah.
stop it. And all there's definitely a green screen, and all the backgrounds are like actually drawn with uh, colored pencils or something.
Oh man.
And the guy playing Buzzcut, you could tell they couldn't get him to come, so they like recorded him somewhere else as if he does it really good or something.
Yeah.
It's terribly amazing.
All right. I'll have to see if I can
rare.
find
The recalled hat, Let's Burn Something.
that. Oh, nice. Oh, that's
Beautiful.
rad.
It's all singed and stuff.
Yeah.
And so the story with this is dude accidentally got it sent to his store back in 93, ordered like everything that he could.
Uh-huh.
And this was accidentally in with a bunch of other hats. And apparently he said there was a note explaining that there was an item and they sent something else to make up for it. So he held on to it for years, and thankfully I got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really like the only early licensed product that like indicates the fire stuff, you know. So that's a big one for me. Let's see. Here's a Japanese item, only released in Japan. It's a tissue box holder.
Oh, wow.
And then you pull the tissues through his mouth.
What's in his nose?
I think bloody tissues.
Oh, wow.
And all I can think is that that's a reference to the nosebleed episode where they had the tampons in at the end. But the thing about all the Japanese merchandise is that it was after the show had stopped in 2000, 2001, this company in Japan just must have got the licensing rights. And they just did them justice, man, doing stuff like this. Because I love all the merch, obviously, but in America, they just put them headbanging on every fucking item. We didn't even get a Cornholio doll in America. And in Japan, they made 2.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had the Cornholio poster. And then I remember, the headbanging t-shirt was like everywhere in like 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah. That is on way too many things in here. And then as a completist, you end up buying that same image over and over again. It starts to piss you off, you know. This is the rarest American item. This was recalled. You remember the Tiger handheld games, right?
Yeah.
There were only 2 Tiger handheld games that were actually talking, and this was one of them.
Oh, wow.
It's actually a game that says like dumbass and asswipe and stuff. This was like a holy grail for a long time for me because it was advertised in a catalog in 94 that would come with the tapes, and could not find it for years, just figured it didn't come out. And around 2013, one popped up loose, and I couldn't believe that. And I never thought I would find one in packaging whatsoever. And so far, only 4 of these or something like that have actually been found in packaging. I think there's only 2 that are actually sealed. I have this in a case, obviously. This is some real grail shit, and I'm always hyping it up because I just think it's so cool that they put them on that kids type of console, whatever the hell those things were.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Well, yeah, it's funny too because they, they're cartoons, so they're marketed to kids. Like I remember going to Pizza Hut and buying stickers, the big push thing.
I have a vending machine over there with those stickers in it. Yeah.
Oh, really? The silver ones with the.
Yeah.
Those are great.
One of my favorite things, dude.
Yeah. I just had like binders covered in those things, and then they would get hot and they'd melt off, and the binder would just be all sticky. So
Prism stickers, I think they're called. I don't just collect Beavis Prism stickers. What you just described, the Pizza Hut having them and shit. I fucking love all those, dude. I actually found one with Calvin and Hobbes. And I just like freaked the fuck out because that obviously was a bootleg because no real like merchandise exists for them or whatever. But that's like the part of my collection that's endless. I have all the stickers of those that were like licensed, but when it comes to those bootlegs, man, one pops up at least every year still, and I'm like, I didn't know that existed. I'll never know if that part of the collection's complete. You know what I mean?
Dang, that's crazy. What's that? What's the thing behind you? I'm pointing as if you can see it in between the Beavis and Butt-Head heads on top of the shelf. No, up. No, up. It looks like a framed picture on top of the display.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Oh, the centerpiece. That's one of a kind. A dude in Buffalo made that. It's literally made out of melted crayon wax.
Oh, wow.
And he does not tell people how he does it because obviously he doesn't want people ripping off his skill.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know. He nailed it, dude. That's his design and everything. Starting with the fire, going to the nachos, ending in the TP. It's fucking brilliant, isn't it?
It's awesome, man.
And I think there's a coating over it so that wax won't ever melt again. But yeah, it's a really freaking one of a kind view.
That's awesome.
Cryptic Crayon. I should probably plug him.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Hey, I don't want to take up too much of more of your time, but again, man, I really appreciate it. And
yeah, thank you.
So your social media is just on whatchamacallit, Instagram? It's just
that's where the collection is. Beavis and Butt-Head Collector. And I mean, I'm on Facebook, Sean Beard. I don't know. It's all like feels weird promoting it because I've just always been doing this. I never really looked at it as a thing like that, and it's super flattering when you hit me up. It's like, come on my show. It's like, man, every day I'm reminded that people like love the boys and like love that there's some guy that's uber passionate about it or something. That's really cool because I didn't put this collection online until 2 years ago. No one even knew I had it. And I just decided to, and it's for what it is, it's kind of blown up. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, collecting's, I mean, there's American Pickers. There's it's on the Disney Plus channel. There's called Prop Culture. So there's shows about collections now and people that are very specific in what they collect. So it's a really cool thing. I really enjoy that stuff. So
that's what I like about Instagram. I didn't know what Instagram was, to be honest, and then someone convinced me I should get on it and put my collection on there. But Facebook is what it is. But you probably follow other collectors, I'd imagine. There's dudes with Simpsons stuff out there. Check out Bart of Darkness. That guy is freaking great. He has the arcade game and everything, man. There's a lot of collectors for the Simpsons, though. That is a big one, and endless. I don't think anyone can really claim complete with something like that. With what I do, I mean, there is a lot of it. Too much for me to even keep in my apartment. I have a lot of it in storage and whatnot. But I mean, the boys in their prime, it was only 4 years. So I'm really just collecting like mostly this 4-year period, and then those few rare occasions where Japan made a bunch of stuff in early 2000s. So I feel fortunate in that aspect that I latched onto something that was kind of niche. And I kind of love that even though the boys are coming back, that it knew when to quit, because The Simpsons has been bad longer than it was good now, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And I think I give Mike a lot of credit for ending when he did and not letting them overstay their welcome or anything. And now it's I don't think anyone in the world would argue that they are like the cartoon icons of the 90s, even over the Simpsons in a sense, because Simpsons is still on, but when you think of Beavis and Butt, just like fucking 90s.
Dude, it was like they were like the Beatles. They were only around for 4 years, or I think the Beatles were around for like 6 or 7. But yeah, they'll always
like the Beatles if they didn't suck. No.
Yeah. I'm pretty over the Beatles. I'm not gonna lie. But
I'm more into Yoko.
Yeah,
she did noise.
Yeah. Have you seen? I think it's Rock and Roll Circus, the Rolling Stones movie, where they have.
No.
But
I might know.
You should check it out.
What?
But they do a jam session where it's like Chuck Berry, John Lennon.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
And then Yoko comes on.
Doing a thing. Yeah.
And you could just see.
What's funny is she released honestly the first 2 noise albums that were mass produced and stuff, and it was pretty much. And John was on it with her, and everyone was buying these records and be like, what the fuck is this shit? And then Lou Reed ended up releasing a noise record just because his record label was like, we need another album. He's like, I don't feel like it. So here's guitar feedback for 30 minutes and stuff. Just
Berlin.
What's that?
Is it Berlin?
No, the Metal Machine Music is the one that's all noise.
Oh man.
They were asking for Berlin, and he was like, you can't rush an album, so that he just gave them guitar feedback. And
Okay.
it's just so funny to think back in that time too, because there weren't too many people who were going to pick that up and be like, I don't like it, but it's interesting at the very least. No, it just went to the fucking bargain bin in a week, and every record store that bought it lost money.
Yeah.
It's kind of brilliant.
Yeah. And then he did an album with Metallica too. So
We don't talk about that.
no, I've only heard it. I thought the music was okay, but I didn't get it.
Well, the day Lou Reed died, I'm a big Lou Reed fan, and I'm not a big Metallica fan. And I found out I was driving around with my buddies, and I found out that I started tearing up, and they're like, fuck that guy, ruined Metallica. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they showed me the Metallica thing, and I'm like, man, this makes me hate Metallica more, because even though they were obviously fans of Lou, like, they left a legacy with people who wouldn't have known him. I would rather people didn't know him than fucking only knew him through that shit.
Yeah, I don't think anybody talks about that one. I don't even think they talk about it.
Yeah. But I mean, good for Metallica or something.
Yeah, but so, all right, man. Well, hey, I'll let you go. But
hey, thanks, buddy. Good talking to you.
So you said probably like a month or so before your podcast. Is that what?
Oh yeah, Late Night Morning Wood is the name of it, and so look forward to that.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Cool. Yeah, and I can probably have this up by like 4 or 5 this afternoon, California time. So, but yeah, I'll shoot you a text and let you know when it's up and everything. So.
All good, buddy. Hey, thanks for having me on, man. So
yeah, thanks.
And to answer your one question, no, I do not get sick of talking about the boys. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for coming on, Sean. I appreciate it.
Much love, buddy.
All right, man. Take care.